Epigraph. Bullshit is not a lie. It's something far worse, indifference to truth, masquerading as a passion for it. Harry Frankfurt, slightly paraphrased for dramatic flair. Introduction. The age of total simulation. Oh, my dear friends, let me regale you with tales of the gloriously absurd world we inhabit. It's not a world of facts, heavens no. It's a world where reality is like an old suit we've outgrown, but keep wearing because it's just so charmingly snug. We live in an era where everything, from news to our deepest convictions, is filtered through Instagram lenses, TV montages, and sacred texts that, let's be honest, sometimes read like a Tarantino script, minus his spark. The theory of global bullshit, as I fondly call it, is not mere deceit but something far more poetic. It's the art of saying anything, as long as it sounds convincing, without a care for whether it's true. As philosopher Harry Frankfurt noted, bullshit isn't about lying, it's about indifference to truth. Now pair this with Jean Baudrillard's simulation of reality, where the world is one giant simulacrum, a copy of a copy with no original in sight. Welcome to hyperreality, where crosses, crescents, and even your morning coffee are mere brands, and authenticity has gone on holiday with no apparent plans to return. 2. Abrahamic religions. When the sacred becomes a commodity. Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, began with a noble aim, to connect humanity with something greater than its own ego. But oh my stars, or rather star with a capital S, how deftly these belief systems have been co-opted into tools for those craving power, wealth, or a spot of good PR. When the sacred is used for manipulation, it becomes a simulacrum, a cardboard castle, grand from afar, but crumbling at the slightest breeze. History is littered with examples. Crusades were declared God's will, but behind the scenes, they were about trade routes and treasure chests. Indulgences, oh what a masterpiece of bullshit. Pay a coin and your sins dissolve like sugar in tea. Salvation? Here's your receipt. Salem witch trials turned widows and single women into witches to seize their land. The sacred? More like a sacred excuse for robbery. These are not mere historical quirks, but illustrations of how faith becomes a logo for power, profit, or plain human pettiness. In hyperreality, religious symbols, crosses, crescents, stars of David, lose their spiritual depth, turning into trademarks for ideologies, political movements, or even commercial brands. 3. The fall of heroes, victims, and martyrs. Oh, how we adored our heroes, victims, and martyrs. These archetypes, like old fairy tales, warmed our hearts. But in the age of global bullshit, they crumble like sandcastles under a rising tide. The victim? No longer an innocent soul suffering for truth, but a media product. Their pain is filmed, edited with dramatic music, and sold as hashtags. BLM climate marches all morph into merch and trends. The hero? Forget knights and saints. Today's hero is an influencer with 1 million followers, their bravery measured in likes. Algorithms decide who becomes an icon and who an outcast. The martyr? Their suffering is no longer about eternity, but ratings. Think of televangelists, weeping for donations. This isn't martyrdom, it's a one-man show. Abrahamic religions often fan these flames, turning victims for God into justifications for wars or heroes of faith into propaganda tools. The sacred becomes bullshit when it serves the system, not the soul. 4. Revolution? And here you are, a fiery revolutionary, hurling a Molotov cocktail at the system's storefront. Bravo! But what's next? If your grand plan is a pint at the pub or a Netflix binge, I've got bad news. You're not a rebel, you're an extra in the grand show of hyper-reality. Modern protests are often pure theater. You film your rebellion, post it on TikTok, go viral, and algorithms turn your rage into profit for the very corporations you claim to defy. Baudrillard would chuckle. The system doesn't fear your Molotovs, it monetizes them. A revolution without an alternative is bullshit, a commodity on the supermarket shelf of meanings. Be a gallery of grand bullshit. Let's stroll through this splendid exhibition of deception. Salem witch trials, 1692-1693. Puritans frothing at the mouth about Satan. Branded widows and single women as witches to seize their property. The sacred? A theatrical mask for greed and patriarchal control. Medieval indulgences pay for salvation and hell's off the table. The church sold forgiveness like a modern streaming subscription. The sacred became a business model. Crusades and holy wars, God wills it, they cried, while looting cities and trade routes. Faith became a logo for empires. Mediatized protests, from BLM to climate marches, movements turn into media spectacles. A protester with a Molotov becomes an Instagram star, their rebellion a product for algorithms. Religious greenwashing preachers urge us to save God's creation while flying private jets. Ecology? Just another brand. Conspiracy and anti-science. Faith is weaponized to deny science, evolution, vaccines, labeling them satanic. This is bullshit, crafting an alternate reality where facts are the enemy. Historical rewrites. Literal readings of the Bible or Quran, despite archaeological evidence, create a simulacrum of truth, serving ideology over spirituality. 6. Epilogue. Escaping the theater of the absurd. My dear friends, global bullshit is not a sentence but an invitation to awaken. Escaping hyperreality isn't about burning temples or torching banks. It's about silence. It's about refusing to be an audience to this absurd spectacle. Stop liking. Stop reposting. Step out of the digital circus. Ask questions. Who wrote this truth? Who profits? Build small worlds, communities rooted in authenticity, not brands. Be a revolutionary not for the camera, but for yourself. True rebellion is not a Molotov cocktail, but a quiet no to lies. When you stop believing in bullshit, sacred, digital, political, you cease to be a puppet. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's when reality, the real, living kind, starts timidly knocking at your door.